All right, let's move on to number 9.
Which is?
Number 9 is collaborative sensing. So not the biological sensing.
Yes.
Empowering connected systems to make context-aware decisions.
Yeah.
And this is one I thought was awesome because this is something I think even on our show we've touched on it from here and there when we were talking about like autonomous vehicles and things. But essentially, think about it. It can be described as this, sensing devices being somewhat ubiquitous in people's. So they're everywhere: homes, vehicles, workplace, maybe even yourself in some ways. That they're now become essentially a distributed mesh network of sensors, allowing things to talk to one another.
Yes.
So, I got excited about this because I believe I had mentioned this when we were talking about like the Waymos and the autonomous vehicles.
Yes.
Is the next evolution of that is these cars have a way of sensing the world around them.
Yep.
But what if the world around them can sense them and then they can communicate?
That's right. Yes. Yep.
Right. So not only can the cars potentially talk to one another, but they can talk to the traffic lights. They can talk to the buildings. They can talk to the curbs. The road itself may be able to communicate about.
It becomes a fully integrated system.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now you can start to imagine there is what it is built is essentially this invisible layer of information that is the mesh network of this environment so that things can autonomously operate within there, but also you can get live real-time feedback of there's a disruption or there's an issue or there's or an opportunity. I mean, I think even just parking, right?
Right.
You're like,
I know, yes.
the street's telling me there's 3 parts, but that's sweet, man. But yeah.
So and I know they use the example of vehicles and transportation systems here, but this goes much wider than this. And again, it's an idea that's been around for a long time, but it's only now that the technologies and the way we think about networks are beginning to make it viable. But you can see how transformative it is. So you think about humans at a human scale.
Yeah.
We actually, if you just look at a human-only group, so forget about the technology, those groups work in a really dynamic way because people are constantly seeing what's happening around them.
Yeah.
Everybody's seeing that. Everybody's constantly adjusting to the
moving
environment, which is where you can have a crowd of 100 or 1,000 people, and miraculously, they all seem to sort of be able to move between each other and get to where they're going. But you put that in the context of an incredibly complex technological world, which is now not mediated by humans and by eyesight and by touch and feel and walking. It's mediated by machines. If those machines aren't connected in the same way, you can have chaos. So this is where you get incredible sort of traffic jams and backups. It's where systems fail.
Horrible accidents where things happen.
That's right. But imagine if everything can talk to each other in the right language. You can reduce the friction and ease the flow, which is where when you come to sort of looking at autonomous systems, and this is something that with vehicles, this is something that always amazes me. So you look at the speed of getting from A to B in a car.
Yep.
It is limited by the technologies we have with traffic lights, with traffic flow systems, with humans behind the wheel. If you had an integrated system, you could speed things up massively, unbelievably massively in terms of getting from A to B.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you ever have been sitting on a highway in a backed up traffic jam, you're like, well, if we all knew what was happening at the same time, even if there was an issue.
This is what happens in a disconnected system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or if you've ever had to merge with people who don't understand how to zipper merge and it's like, oh my.
We're not even going to go there because I do not have the permission living in America to talk about people's lack of ability on roads.
I do. And I will say, I live this nightmare daily. But no, I mean, it's credible. I will say though, on the other side, so 2 things that came to my mind instantly when reading about this particular tech. One is a challenge from just the technological side. I remember our conversation with Bruno was talking about the sensors in autonomous vehicles and things, and how we are like, sensors everywhere. We've got high-tech cameras and this there and this there. And the reality of even just in the automotive industry of how slow and how limited the technology has been so far. What was it, state-of-the-art cameras in your cars is like a 1 megapixel camera. And you're like, what are you talking about? We've got gazillions of megapixels in our phones. But in those auto industries, that is not a simple thing of putting
that's it.
And then you're
fiendishly complex. Yes.
Yeah. And then suddenly then you're like, well, then we have to put those kind of sensors in the telephone pole, and suddenly you're like, this is a big scale issue.
It is a huge scale issue and a huge connectivity issue and even the theories behind that connectivity. And of
Sure.
course, it also raises questions around autonomy. Do you really want to feel as if everything is
Wow,
being monitored?
that was the other piece.
Until you think about that one case where you're coming onto a main road and you're sitting at the traffic lights and there's nothing else around, and those traffic lights refuse to change from red to green. And you're sitting there thinking, if only there was a smart network of sensors here that would realize I'm the only car here and would let me through.
Right. It wasn't just preset by somebody who's like, every 48 seconds, turn, click, and then you walk away.
It usually feels like 5 minutes,
Oh,
to be honest.
yeah, that's true. That's very true. No, well, I think that's really, it was that piece was, and then the other side of that too is also, if everything is constantly monitoring and aware, then you also raise the question of privacy.
Huge issues.
So if you are engaged in this mesh network, that would also theoretically, there'd be no privacy of how you move about in that network.
And here is the really big concern here. And I love this technology, but I'm also very cognizant of the downside. And that is how, especially with artificial intelligence, you can form patterns from little snippets of data that give you an incredibly accurate profile of who somebody is, what they're doing, where they're going, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you might think sitting at that intersection with a sensor there sort of identifying the car, you think, what's the big deal? Nobody's going to know anything from me. But you have a million little bits of information like that. And an AI can then begin to patch everything together to reveal things about you that probably you don't even
absolutely
know.
I mean, even in modern to even historic times, I mean, you've asked the question, well, what harm could come of people doing that? It's like, oh, well, suddenly it's no longer okay with us that these people go to that location. So now we know who those, we'll round them all up because now we know. I mean, so there's massive privacy challenge. And of course, in thinking from a US centric perspective too, I mean, instantly massive concerns about the proprietary nature of this. Like, well, who's controlling it? Where's the policy? Where's the regulation? How is our data? How is the information used? Because we'll talk about another data information gold mine.
Right.
I mean, people are, they're paying a lot of money to grab your data offline anyway. How much would they pay to know your exact whereabouts and what you do, right?
So it's a great example of a potentially transformative technology, which we cannot even begin to grapple with until we begin to grapple with the social ramifications of it and how to actually develop it in socially responsive and responsible ways.
Yeah, absolutely.